Introducing Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors. Books with Bridgetti, only on 100 TV.
Our guest today, Cori Wamsley, unravels the secrets behind the treasures we seek. A journey of self-discovery, architecture, and unexpected treasures that'll leave you craving for the next chapter of life's adventure. Join us for insights that will spark your curiosity and leave you yearning for more. Authors like you've never heard before, only on Books with Bridgetti. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Introducing Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors. Books with Bridgetti, only on 100 TV.
Can everybody see that? Coinbase or all that is
Hey, it's Christoph Trapp. Thanks for having me on your live show. It was really my pleasure. Your production is just fantastic. Unbelievable how you guys are pulling that off. So organized with segments and transitions and all those different things. Right in line with what I'm talking about in my new book, Going Live. Live stream your podcast to reach more people. Hopefully people tune in for our conversations. Definitely worth the on-demand version, in my opinion, if I may say so myself. You guys are awesome.
I think this might be, I've been on over 24 different podcasts and radio shows in the last couple of months, and this has to be one of the most sophisticated, what the kids that I used to teach call bomb.com shows and presentations that I've ever been on. It looks fantastic. Thank you.
I love your introduction. How professional. That sounds, I feel like I'm on a beautiful show here.
Folks, welcome.
available wherever great books are sold near you.
Oh my goodness, Ross, thank you so much.
Thanks.
And,
this is one of the most fun interviews that I've ever done. So thank you, Bridgetti.
Big pleasure. Ross, take care.
Thank you.
If you're just joining us, welcome to Books with Bridgetti. This live stream is brought to you by StreamYard and Be Life Media. In today's show, we're going to be talking to Cori Wamsley, authors like you've never heard them before, only on Books with Bridgetti. If you've never met her before, Cori is the CEO of Aurora Corialis Publishing, is the go-to expert for transformative stories. With 18 years of writing and editing experience, including roles at the Departments of Energy and Justice, she's a seasoned professional. As the former executive editor of Inspiring Lives magazines, Cori has honed her skills. She's indeed the author of 10 books, including The Treasures We Seek, which is one of the books we'll dive into today, and also the acclaimed guide, The Spark Method, How to Write a Book for Your Business Fast. So with that, let's give her a warm welcome to the show, shall we? Welcome to the show. I'm so pleased that you could finally join us today. I am absolutely delighted and looking forward to talking to you.
Thank you for having me on. I've been looking forward to this.
An absolute pleasure. Let's dive right in because I'm dying to learn some more about you being an author and your book. And so, embarking on the adventure, your protagonist, Kensington Ashbury, takes a spontaneous trip to Italy that becomes a journey of self-discovery. Could you share a personal experience that inspired Kenzie's character or her transformative adventure?
Yeah. So part of it was actually a trip to Italy that I took years ago. My husband and I went to Italy for our honeymoon. So I worked in a lot of the different experiences there. At the beginning of the book, I'm talking about how she's in a car and they're just zipping through the streets. One of the scariest moments for me when I was in Italy was when we were headed from the airport to our hotel, and I thought I was going to die because the guy who was driving our car was zipping in and out of all the buses, and then there's the Vespas, and I mean all different things zipping everywhere. It was a terrifying experience, and I think taking a person who was already kind of going through some challenges in her life, she had just come out of a really rough breakup, and putting her with her best friend in the backseat of a car and having them go through that, like she's thinking this is a bad idea. And I remember that's what I was thinking when we went to Rome. This is a horrible idea. This is how I'm going to die. Not a great experience. But once we got there, it was so nice to be able to see things from a different perspective. Like I grew up in the United States, and most of my life I've been looking at buildings that are, 10 years old to maybe 200 years old. Being in Italy, in Rome especially, you are at the center of a culture where they have been around forever. You're walking the same streets that Julius Caesar walked. I mean, there is something massive that goes on when somebody goes to another country like that. Just feeling how minuscule you are in the vast expanse of the universe and the time that humans have been on this planet. I think that in itself is a huge experience. And that's something that I kind of brought into the book. And then not just my own personal experiences, but a lot of the people who I've worked with, my colleagues, my clients, they've been through a lot of challenges. And I wanted to take some of the deep feelings and what those challenges cause in our lives, how they make us feel about ourselves, because those things affect us, even if we don't feel like they affect us. For Kenzie, she had been through a really rough breakup where somebody had betrayed her trust, and she felt like she just couldn't even trust herself anymore. It was to that point where she was closing in, and she basically, before this trip, she was staying at her house all the time, reading books, watching movies. She's like, oh, this makes me happy, so obviously everything's fine. Well, it's not. She's not missing that. She's missing that human component, which is society and culture and connection. So that was something that I wanted to bring forth too, because I know I've been in periods of my life where I wanted to hide. That is my natural tendency. If there's fight or flight, I am flight and hide under a blanket with a book. And so I brought that to my character.
Makes it very human and very, very relatable. So I quite like that. Now, as an architect, Kenzie navigates both the intricacies of historical digs and the design of a new headquarters. How does your background in architecture influence the settings and the atmosphere you create in The Treasures We Seek?
Well, I don't have any background in architecture. So I was writing from the perspective of someone who just greatly appreciates buildings, especially ancient buildings. Something that I've always loved was going to museums and seeing like the facades or seeing the statues. I feel like when I see those things, it makes me feel like, how am I a part of this society from, the great perspective of society? How am I part of this? And, what was that person thinking when they were doing this, and what was impacting their work? And as a creative, I brought that piece to Kenzie's character, because I believe that as creatives, we're impacted by everything that we, take in. So we're reading books, we're watching movies, but we're also experiencing life. We're experiencing culture from, the great perspective as well as a small perspective in our hometowns, and also looking at the world. So Kenzie, she's somebody who has always loved buildings. She's always thought about, how things are created and what they do with them. And I think that's an important aspect of the relationship she has with her mentor, Miranda, too, is that she's learning from Miranda while Miranda is saying, I love what it does for me as an architect, that I get to create a space where people are going to be living, they're going to be working, they're going to be doing their thing. And that is fulfilling to me.
It seems that there's that the theme or a theme that runs through the book is about stepping out of your comfort zones. In your own life, were there any moments where you had to take a leap into the unknown? And how did that impact your personal growth?
So as an introvert, I very much like my comfort zone. I would much rather, as I said before, stay in my house under a blanket with a book. But I do have a drive to do big things. So there's this constant internal conflict that I have with, wouldn't you rather just grab a cup of tea and watch a movie? But I need to conquer the world. So I do push myself constantly to get out of my comfort zone. Sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not. And I think it's important to recognize that I'm not going to always be successful and to give myself grace. But when I am successful, I can do big things. I started a publishing house 2 years ago. So in 2021 in the spring, I took a leap and jumped, headfirst into starting a publishing house. But before that, even I started my own business. I ended up losing my job in 2016 when I was working at the Department of Energy. They cut basically all the senior staff in the PR department. And I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old at home. And so I had no plan of figuring out a career or what my life was going to look like even 5 years down the road. It was, if you have ever experienced small children, you are day-to-day survival on that. It's, all right, here's more goldfish crackers. Please stop crying. I don't know what to do. It's, I've got to take them with me to the grocery store and they're probably going to throw a fit about cookies. There are so many things you're dealing with. And then to also be making a major career change. And that's when I started my first business, which was just freelancing as a writer and editor. But because I had written books, people were very interested in, how do you write a book for a business? So I was shifting at the same time. It was tons of personal development, self-growth, steps backwards as I was like, I really don't want to do this. Do I want to do this? Of course I want to do this. All this, constant back and forth. And I think that that's something we have to recognize when we're taking big steps, is that it's not going to be linear. It might be a staircase, but that staircase is going to move. It's going to turn into an escalator. It's going to turn into a slide. And we need to be aware that that stuff's going to happen and it's all okay.
Wow. A lot of what you said is so relatable. And I love that. I think most women out there can totally relate to your story and Kenzie's story, which makes it so much more heartwarming. So I just want to ask a little bit about the Italian tapestry in the book. Italy is such a rich backdrop. How did it influence, or did it influence the narrative at all?
Yeah. Placing her in Italy, I felt like when I was there, because of the culture and because of all the things I wanted to experience, I was forced to slow down. And I think that's something that was important for Kenzie too, because she is anxious. She is nervous. She's operating in this jittery spot where she doesn't know how to trust people and trust herself and, move forward in her life. So she's kind of, vibrating in place. And just being there, that was something that when I was writing it, I was very aware of how I wrote what she was saying and how she was behaving, because I wanted the reader to get this intentional slowdown. At the beginning of the book, she starts out talking about this gray hair she found, and she's so like nitpicky. I found this gray hair, and oh my God, and where's my purse? And I've got to get this, and I've got to get to work. And she's very jittery. And when you get her into Italy, and once she's, experienced that car ride that is kind of balancing out her jitteriness, it's like she needed that little shake up to get her to stop shaking. But being there, I think she was able to start slowing down and start connecting more with people who were just digging in the dirt. And when she stepped back and said, you know what, I'm just digging in the dirt. I don't have to find an artifact every day. I dropped something and it broke, and that's okay too, because essentially it was already broken. Once she starts recognizing that there are things going on and nothing bad happens, like, it's okay, we can move on. That's when she starts slowing down and realizing, like, I get to wake up every day and smell lemon trees right outside. I get to walk outside here and look at this gorgeous lake that's been here for millennia. I get to walk down the street and experience a beach right here. I get to get up every day and connect with people who are from different places. And that was kind of what brought her down to a point of almost stripping back to the basics.
Now, the novel highlights a few moments of serendipity. Could you share a real-life instance where an unexpected twist of fate led to a positive or significant outcome? I almost feel like you kind of answered the question already.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of times in our lives that you'll step back and you'll be like, this was a significant moment. Like, there's got to be something more going on here. Is this the universe, God, whatever? Something is telling me to do this. Something is giving me a nudge in that direction. And I'm actually, the example I want to give was when we were actually in Italy. A friend of mine from who I met in Pittsburgh. I live in Pittsburgh. She was from Italy. She grew up there and she had moved to Pittsburgh, and that's how I met her. And so before we went on our trip, we had talked a couple times about some things that she thought we should check out while we were there. One of the days that we were in Italy, we realized we had kind of run through everything that we had on our list, and we weren't sure what to do next. So we went back to the Spanish Steps, and we were walking up through there, just kind of seeing, like, okay, is there anything maybe down an alley, or, Spanish Steps are a great place to get perspective because you can kind of see a big area there. And we got to the top, and I looked over and I was like, that girl over there looks so much like my friend Stefania. And the woman lowered her sunglasses and gave me this look. And I was like, that's my friend Stefania. Like, of all the things to happen, I'm in Rome. We never run into each other in Pittsburgh. And there she is in Rome. She had randomly flown back at the same time that we were there. It was totally a coincidence how it worked out, but she had flown back to update her visa or something. And she thought, oh, I'll walk over the Spanish Steps and just kind of look around and see if maybe Cori and Matt are there. And there we were. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, of all the people to run into, one of my friends from back home. And because of that, we told her, hey, this is what we've been doing this week. And she said, you know what? I have a taxi. Hop in the taxi. I'm going to take you over to the train station. I mean, it was just like perfect timing. We went over to the train station. She showed us how to get a ticket to Florence. And while we were there, because she was on her way to the train station to meet her boyfriend, who was coming in from Florence. And she said, you guys need to go to Florence for the day, so go tomorrow. So we got the tickets for the next day, got to run into her boyfriend and meet him in person. It was just like all this great stuff. And because of that, we ended up going to Florence the next day, and it was just gorgeous. And it was another wonderful experience we got to have. And I felt like everything just lined up so perfectly for us to be able to have that experience.
Oh my goodness. That is just so heartwarming, and something I'm sure the both of you will never, ever forget,
Yeah. Yeah. We still talk about it 12 years later.
Oh my goodness. My next question for you is one of my favorite ones. Now, Kenzie grapples with work obligations, family expectations, and personal desires, like all of us do. And so you have a lot of balls that you juggle as well. You're an author, you're a CEO, you're a mom, you're a wife, you wear many hats. Do you have any advice for those striving to find some sort of equilibrium in their own lives?
Yeah, there's no balance. I think that some days you're going to have a lot of work and you need to focus on that. And some days your kids are going to need you and you need to focus on that. And I think what's important is to kind of give yourself grace and understand that it's never going to be perfect. And as long as, you're paying attention to some of the balls in the air on different days, making sure that there is, almost an equal attention to those things. It's not going to be every day. I think that that's when we start kind of letting down our expectations of perfection. I think that the biggest lesson my kids taught me is that it's not going to be perfect. And I learned that through, puke all over shirts and toys all over the carpet and boogers in places I can't even imagine. And, just every little thing, and understanding that I can't constantly get upset that I'm not in control. I can't get upset that things aren't perfect. I can't get upset that my living room is dusty right now, even though we have guests coming in a couple days. There are things that I need to just accept and understand that I'm a human and there are other humans out there who will probably get it. And by me being real and saying, you know what, there's paint on the carpet in my living room, and it's because I stuck my hand in paint when we were having a blast over the weekend painting. I think people are going to get it, and it gives other people permission to be real too. So I hope that if anyone's listening and needs to hear that, take it to heart, because it's a lesson that it took me until having kids in my 30s to finally get. Like, it's not perfect and it doesn't have to be, and it's way more fun if it's not.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. When people talk about this work-life balance, there is no balance. One day it's going to be more work, and sometimes it's the morning more work, and the afternoon it's more family.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever works, you literally just have to run with it. And I think post COVID, I think a lot of people have realized that it's okay to be human in public.
Yeah.
You don't have to have this facade of I've got it all together. I think we've left that behind to our pre-COVID days. Thank goodness.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more on that.
Oh my goodness. And so Kenzie, in her story, also unearths some historical artifacts, and there's some personal revelations about her life.
Yeah.
And if you could excavate one lesson from your own life that you treasure, what would that be?
I think it's learning that I have a choice on a lot of things. Instead of, I could give you 5 or 6 different stories on this one. I'll go with the Elf on the Shelf one, since it's seasonal. Before we had Elf on the Shelf, I had a first grader and a 4-year-old. So they were 4 and 6. And my first grader, or she had just turned 7, but she came home and was saying that her teacher had an Elf on the Shelf in the classroom because her kids had outgrown him. And it was so cool. Every single day he's hiding in a different spot and all this stuff. Well, before that, I had seen lots of pictures on social media where people were posting about their elf getting into mayhem in their house. I had a friend whose elf got into the kids' underwear drawer and put their underwear all over the tree. I saw messes in the kitchen. I saw just craziness. And again, at that point, I was still trying to come into the whole, like, I don't need to be in control of everything. And things don't need to be perfect, but good grief, I'm not going to bring a creature into my house that's going to destroy it. So I'm listening to my daughter's excitement over this and thinking about all these things online and how I had sworn the elves were creepy and that I wasn't going to have this thing going on in my house. And I realized, again, I get to choose. And I told her, like, if this is going to bring you joy for us to have an elf, I'm going to let Santa know, hey, we would like an elf, but the elf needs to be respectful. The elf needs to be kind. And the elf cannot be somebody who makes messes in our house, because we wouldn't go to her house and make a mess either. And my daughter was like, okay, let's write to Santa. Let's do this. So I, texted Santa like I always do on my phone. And he said he had the perfect elf for us. She had just finished training and she was ready to come over. And that Christmas was so much fun. Or the next Christmas rather, because they had the elf in the classroom. And this was 2019 when the elf in the classroom happened. Christmas 2020, when we were all, locked down, we'd had a rough year. That elf brought so much joy to my house. And it was because we had her doing fun things. She brought little gifts to my daughters, like Christmas ornaments. She set out stuff to do a craft. She suggested we bake cookies. I let that be something that was a fun element rather than a mischievous element in my house. And it was because I got to choose and I recognized this is my house, my rules. I can have a kind and friendly elf. I don't have to have a mischievous elf who I want to lock up and never see again. So I think that is an important lesson for us, is to recognize that, without slipping into that perfection and control thing, we do get to choose. We get to choose how things happen in our house, in our world, in our business. We get to choose how we react to things too. I could have chosen to be like, absolutely not. I know you think this is cool, but that's not cool. Instead, I said, no, what, I'm open to how this can work for us.
And I think that is such a powerful lesson for children to learn.
Yeah.
As well. The fact that we always have a choice. Whatever happens, we can always make a choice, and we can make a good one.
Yeah.
So I think your children probably learnt a fantastic lesson out of that experience as well. Now, you seem to weave history, culture, and personal discovery quite seamlessly in your book. If you had to give advice to a new author or an aspiring author, what would you say to them about the ability to blend all these elements into a cohesive and engaging storyline?
I think it's important to look at why your character is doing what they're doing, what's impacting them. I think those are some initial things to think about. Also, what's going to get you excited to write the story? Because if you're not excited, then you're not going to want to write it. So for me, I was thinking about the historical aspects. I love watching archaeological digs, like on TV, like different documentaries and stuff. I love watching that. I love going to the museum. And so I created a character who loved those things too. And I worked with, how can I make this interesting to the reader without ramming history down their throats? Because not everybody's going to get excited about that. What elements can I pull in that you're going to understand how her story connects with this history? What can I put in here that's going to let her say, I remember this thing. This reminds me of things. A lot of it is the human element, how things around us are impacting us. And I think that's something important to bring to really everything that you're writing, is how is it impacting us? What does it cause us to do? How does this create community? Or how does it cause us to back away from community? And I really enjoyed playing with that in this book. There are a couple artifacts she finds that reminds her of, an incident with her mom, or something that happened with her ex. And just thinking about those kind of things, that was something I had to try to weave together. Like, well, why is it important that she finds, this specific thing? How does that work with something that happened in her past? What can we learn from that? How does that impact her moving forward? Does this cause a hiccup in the story? Because also, you don't want a linear line for a story. You want it to be up and down. You want there to be a couple steps back. That's just life.
Absolutely. And I almost feel like my next question follows on nicely onto this, because your characters are very authentic and relatable.
Thank you.
Is it based on real life friendships? Or is that just part of the storyline?
I tend to pull a lot of different people together. A lot of times I will take like major characteristics, or even some of my own characteristics, and I'll put them into a person. The character Lauren, I was actually picturing an actress that I've seen on several different movies and kind of just visualizing her. And that's how she ended up being, the cadence of her speech and stuff. And then some of the things that she does, those are things that I've seen some of my friends do who are very into self-development. They are very aware of how they're speaking to people, and if somebody brings them a problem, they're aware of their response to that. They understand not everybody's looking for a fix. Sometimes people just need to vent. Sometimes people need a little nudge in the one direction. So I pulled all of those pieces together for her. The character Miranda, the mentor, she was like, every mentor I've had, I took all of the best stuff from that and I put it into Miranda. And I've actually had a couple people say, I really want her to be my mentor. I want her to be my coach. How can we create her in real life? And with Kenzie, of course, I was pulling in some of my experiences with, seeing my friends go through relationships where there was an issue. I've known several people who were in difficult relationships. I don't want to give away the spoiler of what actually happened with them. But I've seen several people going through tough relationships, and I wanted to pull those pieces together and make that into what the impetus was for causing her to kind of close down.
Wow. Everything about the book is so human and so relatable. So if you're watching the show and you haven't grabbed a copy of the book yet, please do. We're going to take a very short break. And when we come back, we're going to ask Cori to read a little section out of the book for you, just as a teaser. So stay with us. We'll be right back. You are watching Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors, only on 100 TV. Welcome back. You're watching Books with Bridgetti. Cori, can you take out the book and show us the cover first?
Sure.
I'm going to put you... Yeah, that is such a beautiful cover. Now, tell us a little bit about that cover. Did you have direct input into the design of the cover?
I did. I run a publishing house, Aurora Corialis, and our cover designer, Karen, she's phenomenal to work with. And we went through a couple different renditions of this cover. And what we settled on was a picture of Castel Gandolfo, which is in the background. And I really like the human element, because when you see a person, you want to connect with them. I'm actually going to show you the previous cover she did for Braving the Shore. This was my book last year. And you can see the pictures of the sisters on the cover here with their faces. And I felt like that was something I really wanted to pull into this one too. So she found a stock photo of a woman that could be Kenzie. And when she showed me that, I said, that's her. That's exactly what I had.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's just gorgeous.
Thank you.
So would you read us a short bit from the book, just so people who haven't read it yet can get a feel for what the book is about?
Sure. So I'm jumping ahead. I think this is the third chapter. And this is where Kenzie is at Lauren's house, and they're just having like a girlfriends kind of talk, because they're best friends, and Kenzie needs to vent a little bit. And so we start out with Kenzie talking. But back to the issue at hand. So basically, I'm expected to host Christmas for 10 people, which I've never done, and read this book and become some, quote, next best version of me, according to the back of the book, so I can stop being a weenie at work and keep my bosses happy, and so I can take on potentially the biggest project of my lifetime in January, designing the new HQ for Divya Shanti. Lauren, as usual, is sipping her hot matcha latte thoughtfully, nodding in sympathy, but definitely concocting a plan to make me feel better, which is potentially the best trait in a best friend. I don't know what to tell you. That's a lot. I'm sorry, what? You're not going to tell me how to feel better and make the most of it and reframe and yada yada from the latest self-help guru you've been following? Oh yeah, that. Yeah, I'm trying to have healthier boundaries and not solve everyone's problems for them. Sage is starting to rely heavily on me for that, and she really needs to have just some nudges in the right direction instead. Can't let a 13-year-old get out of the habit of working things out for herself. Sage is Lauren's niece who stays over a lot because Lauren likes to help her sister Taylor out. She works a lot of extra hours as a single mom so she can pay for braces and put money aside for Sage to go to college and all that good stuff. Sage's teeth look great, but I'm sure it takes a toll. Sorry if I was relying on you for that too. My head was reeling. What if she's just letting me hang out because she feels bad for me? Oh my God, I'm a charity case. No worries, Lauren laughs. I'll give you a nudge, just like I'm trying to do with Sage. She sat up straighter, sipped her drink, and then gave me a wise look. So what do you think you need most right now to help you believe in yourself? Believe in myself? Yes, because it sounds like a lot of great opportunities. Ha! And I'm sure that your stress is coming from a lack of belief in yourself to handle those fabulous things, which is probably something that Miranda spotted too, since she gave you that book to level up. So does the matcha latte make you wise? Lots of personal development. I've been following Ashley Lewis on all her social, and she gives the best tips. Her book, All About the Good Karma, is life-changing. I'll add it to my list. Good grief, I'm behind. You know what else might help you change your perspective? Lauren paused to let me answer, but I didn't. I had no idea what to say. Changing your physical position on this planet. I'm not doing another cleanse with you. What? No. I mean moving around, getting out of town, going on vacation. That is actually appealing. But I don't want to go anywhere by myself. First of all, traveling by yourself is so freeing. You don't have to compromise with anyone about where you go. You can eat and go to the bathroom whenever you want, and you don't have to take care of anyone. So freeing, just you and the world. That sounds like a really enlightened way to say lonely. Are you lonely in your house? No. Then how could you be lonely when you're spending your time how you want, seeing what you want, and indulging yourself a little? Alone isn't lonely. She's right. Crap. Okay, you're right, but I don't know where I would even go. How about Rome? Like in Italy? Sure. I snort laugh. You want me to fly to Rome by myself? Do you have a passport? I do, but yay! Lauren sets her mug down and lunge hugs me. Okay, I've been bursting to tell you about this. I can't hear you.
That is absolutely delightful. Thank you so much for reading. Now, I need to ask, I didn't look this up. Is this book available in audio?
It's not. It's available in paperback and ebook.
Are you considering audio?
I've thought about it, but I haven't tackled that yet.
Because listening to you read was just so captivating. I could sit here for hours, just listen to you read.
Thank you. It's a lot of experience reading to my kids.
I'm sure. And, so as an author with having done both fiction and nonfiction, are there any authors or books that was influential in shaping your style or approach to storytelling?
So I think that really everything that we're putting in, everything that we take in is always impacting us, whether we realize it or not. The past couple of years, I've read a lot of Anita Hughes, Barbara O'Neill, and Christina Lauren, Sophie Kinsella. So kind of a smattering of romance and stuff that makes me laugh, as well as women's fiction. And I feel like all of that has kind of rolled together into the way I've been writing. Kenzie, when she was kind of coming through to me, she just felt like a very high energy, but tight in a ball sort of character. And I think that was a big influence on how I wrote her. A lot of times when I have a character come into my head, they have a personality there, and I'm just letting their personality out onto the page. So it's kind of a blend between what I feel like they are giving me to use, and also all the stuff I've been reading. And I'm always very cautious about what I'm putting in. I don't read anything dark. I don't watch movies that are dark. I don't watch anything scary. So I think that because of that, that kind of gives my books a lighthearted sort of feel, as well as giving it some of the seriousness of just my personality whenever I'm, thinking about big things. I feel like they're a good balance between serious and funny, and especially because Kenzie is so high strung and also has a good sense of humor. I think a lot of that came through too.
Wow. That's amazing. Let's switch over to your other book, The Spark Method, How to Write a Book for Your Business Fast. Do you have the book? Do you want to show us the cover just real quick?
I don't have it on my desk right now.
No, it's fine. No worries. What inspired The Spark Method?
That one was because I'm always talking about how to write a book, and I felt like it was something that was needed. When people think about writing a book, especially for your business, it feels very complicated because as a business owner, there's all this stuff that you have to do. And then you're like, oh, and now I get to do this too. And I wanted to make it very simple. And I realized that not everybody can hire a coach, but most people do need to get their story out there. So if I have something that is simple and compact, the book is less than 100 pages. If you look at just the content portion, it's about 100 total. If you're looking at like the table of contents, the beginning stuff. So it's very palatable. It's something that people can get through quickly, and it has all the different steps. So if you already have a business and you've got blog posts, you've been writing articles, you do talks, you already have a lot of stuff, but it's in here. And what my book does is help you get it out of there and onto the page.
So really, it's a how-to guide if you want to get stuff out of your head. And I think it's something that a lot of us battle with. Mm-hmm. We walk around with all this knowledge in our heads, and we struggle to get the stories out. Mm-hmm. And so I think a guide like that. Did you have a specific target audience in mind with the book?
Yeah, business owners. Most of the people who are online, like coaches, business coaches, life coaches, whatever it is, leadership coaches, whatever it is that they are doing. A lot of those people want to have a book for their business. They want something they can use to pitch to get speaking engagements, something that's going to naturally help people say, this was a great book. I really want to work with this person, to kind of lead to that next step, something to build their audience. So that's really who I'm speaking to with this, is people who already have a business. They already have all these ideas. They just don't understand how to get it into a format where it makes sense as a book.
And do you run any masterclasses as a spin-off from the book?
Yeah, I actually teach not really master classes, but I do offer 2 coaching programs, a private one and then a group one. The group one, I cap at 6 people. That way everybody gets attention. But I start out both of those with helping people map out their books, figure out what they want to talk about, what their goals are. And then also understanding the entire process, I think, is important too. When people work with me, I start out coaching them, and we go through coaching, editing, book cover, the layout, like publishing. We have marketing and PR that's included for the back end. And just helping people understand all those different pieces, I think, is important, because a lot of times when a business owner says, I want to write a book, they think, I want to write a book, but I don't know what everything else is. I want to write a book, but how do I find an editor? Where should I self-publish this? Can I just go on Fiverr to find a cover designer? Like, what am I going to do? So I put all the pieces together. That way there's just no questions. If they do have questions, they have someone to ask.
And I really like that you limit the class to 6 people, because that's very small. So you can get very intimate. And, sometimes you can get lost when there's 20, 30, 50 people
Yeah.
in a class. But I think with 6 people, you can dive really deep because I think your students can learn from each other and from you at the same time because it is so small and intimate. How often do you run them?
It's a rolling enrollment. So because I help them before they start, we do like a private session. So whenever I start with somebody, we set up their book and then they're submitting chapters to me. So it's not necessarily linear. And that's something I cover in the book too. You don't have to write your book in a linear way if you're doing a business book. Because a lot of times you feel like, today I talked to a client about this specific topic. I'm really excited about this specific topic. Oh, but I'm not allowed to write that because that's not up until next month. Like, no, absolutely. Dive in and work where you feel comfortable, where you feel inspired. So like I can have somebody who's been in the program for 3 months and then someone else join them and there's no conflict of, they're not at the same point.
Well, that's great. If anybody wants to join your classes, how do they reach out and connect with you?
They can reach out on social media. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram as Cori Wamsley. Or if they want to go to my website, Aurora Corialis Publishing.com. There's a contact form on there. They can reach out. And there's also information on there about my different courses and the different ways that we work with authors, because we do offer a huge amount of things to help people.
And if people want to connect with you on your social media, which is the best one for people to reach out to you?
I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram, I have 2 different handles. I have just Cori Wamsley, and then I have Cori Wamsley _author.
Fantastic. Cori, it was wonderful being able to connect with you and just learn a little bit about your journey and what it is that you do. And so I want to say thank you very much for being such an amazing guest on our show today. And to our amazing audience, thank you very much for joining us. And we'd love to have you back on the next episode of Books with Bridgetti. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us on Books with Bridgetti. Join us next time for industry experts and award-winning authors only on 100 TV.
This might be, I've been on over 24 different podcasts and radio shows in the last couple of months. And this has to be one of the most sophisticated, what the kids like to teach called bomb.com shows and presentations that I've ever been on. It's fantastic. Thank you for having me here.
Available wherever great books are sold near you.